saw the heavy deployment of soldiers yesterday, and I want us to start with Mr. Mubvumbi. What is your take on the situation? Why is there such a heavy deployment of military in Harare starting yesterday?
Honorable Gambakwe, what I would like to say is that the facts are there on the ground. They are very clear as the nose on your face for everybody to see. What we have in Zimbabwe is a military establishment. And because of the socio-economic conditions of our country, the hardships that people are enduring every day, a revolt is imminent. So the powers that be, or the government per se, is actually sensing that people will be on the streets anytime, any moment. So to counter that effort is to deploy the armed forces on the streets or the police to silence the voice of reason, to silence the cries of the people, which is very unconstitutional.
Okay, Mr. Kanyeta, I want to come to you. What are the main issues that have been troubling Zimbabweans, especially during this lockdown?
Zimbabweans are hungry, Mr. Gambakwe. Zimbabweans are angry. At the same time, a hungry man is an angry person. A hungry person is an angry man. What I'm trying to say is that Zimbabweans are choked to death. And the regime itself, even its police and its army, they are hungry. Those are the matters that are troubling the majority of the Zimbabweans. And they are not being allowed to exercise their right to fend for themselves. They've been locked down from their day-to-day running businesses, where they actually try to sell their wares. And that has actually added to their suffering. We have seen a lot of distribution of food from NGOs, and those have also been politicized. So people are basically hungry. Those are the sentiments on the ground, and the regime knows that a hungry person is an angry person. They were promised the money by the regime, which never materialized, or it was consumed by inflation before it even got to them. It was just a figure that was announced to lie to people, like to just have something to say. But we saw that this money never reached the people, and it was also the figure that they announced was consumed by inflation, and they were left with eggs on their faces. They know that people are hungry, and they know that it's just a matter of time before that hunger translates into protest, a fully fledged protest that they won't be able to control.
Right, Mr. Mubvumbi, continuing from where Mr. Kanyeta ended off. Yesterday, we saw a lot of people almost demonstrating in their cars, hooting and singing at night. How far do you think this kind of protest is going to go? Are we seeing the beginning of mass action in Zimbabwe?
Like I said and alluded earlier on, that a revolt is imminent. But what we have to ask ourselves, Honorable Gambakwe, is the question to say, is this the life that we want? Is this the quest that people have in their minds, whether they are in their houses or in their cars? Are these the prescripts of what we are clamoring to have in Zimbabwe as a system? Is this a model of life that people want? That the weaker people that are not in government or the electorate, must every day, day in, day out, breathe, walk, and talk on the mace of the powerful one. Because there's no freedom of speech. Now there is not even freedom of movement. You see, you cannot lock the people down, even amid COVID-19, oblivious of the repercussions that comes with that. Because we need to understand the kind of economy that we have. It's an informal economy that we have. What works for America does not work for Zimbabwe. because these are two different entities. You cannot copy and paste models, you see, at the expense of the people, the expense of the whole nation. So this is the manifestation of a mal-governed state. This is a manifestation of, you know, of a typical autocratic regime that is pouncing on the unarmed civilians. So I'm telling you, bottom line, a revolt is imminent. These are the signs of what is to come. And unfortunately, there is nothing that can be done.
Okay, going to Mr. Kanyeta, if a revolt was to come up in Zimbabwe, do we have an alternative opposition that is strong enough to take over from where ZANU-PF is right now? Or it will just be another chaos?
You asked a very good question, Mr. Gambakwe. As you know, our politics is monopolized. On one end, we have the ruling party, which monopolized the ruling of the country, and on the other end, we have the main opposition, which also monopolized the main opposition. So it is safe to say at this present moment that if we are to achieve the change that we actually need going forward, we're gonna have to come together, whether you are ZANU-PF or whether you are MDC or whether you are DRP as myself, and come together and agree on one thing. And what is that one thing? That one thing is to restore democracy first before we align ourselves with any other political party, because you can agree with me right now that there's no democracy. So whether you are MDC or whether you are ZANU-PF or whether you are PDP, it's not going to count anything, because you cannot express your democratic right to select your leader. If you do that, the leader will be given to you by the courts, which are captured. So we just have to agree that at this present moment, let us not seek to divide ourselves among political lines. Let us just come together. If a demonstration is to happen today, it shouldn't be on political party lines. It should be a collective as Zimbabweans. As I'm speaking to you, I'm a member of the DRP. But when the demonstration comes, we must actually embrace each other. When that which is stepping on our democracy is removed, we can then be able to exercise our democratic right of association. So I'm encouraging people in every corner of the country right now, whether you are MDC, ZANU-PF or PDP or whatever. Let us leave that for now, because it doesn't help us in any way. There's no democracy. So let us restore that democracy first before we can actually start saying I am PDP and you are MDC. So yes, there will be an opposition only if we all become one and demand that which we will actually translate into us choosing our leadership. So just before I forget, I just want to give one point. We shouldn't try to replicate what is happening in America, the George Floyd's death. I've seen people trying to replicate that, to say that is what we actually need to do in Zimbabwe right now. We know that is not practical. We need to be exploring other ways of protest for us to be able to be heard, which can then culminate into a fully fledged demonstration. I've seen people are waiting for Mr. Chamisa to give a word to say, go into the streets and demonstrate. We know that is not going to happen. Let us be creative as Zimbabweans. You know, we are very educated. Let us be creative and adopt other forms of protest. I've seen some people suggesting graffiting. I've seen some people suggesting hooting. I've seen some people suggesting blowing of mapitos and stuff like that. Let us be creative. Let us adopt all those things right now in your personal capacity. No need of a leader, and deliver ourselves the democracy that we want.
Right, Mr. Kanyeta, I'm very happy with the answer that you've given us. Now, I want to give Mr. Mubvumbi a chance to wrap up this discussion. We have said that the government in Zimbabwe notices that people are just about to revolt, but we've said that the opposition that we have is very divided. I want to pose this question to Mr. Mubvumbi as a last question. the problems that we're seeing in the MDC, are they somehow influenced by ZANU-PF? Is ZANU-PF trying to weaken the opposition?
You see, I've always said I'm not in a very good position to be judging what happens in other political parties. But what is pertinent and at this juncture, what is important for people to understand is to be able to know where we are as a country. Even the Bible says so. I'll put it in our vernacular. Shoko raMwari rinoti, mirai panzira dzenyu dzekare, mutsvake yakanaka kana maiwana mufambe nayo. MDC has equally failed just as ZANU-PF. Kune vanhu vakajoina MDC vane 16 years vatochena musoro. Saka chokwadi chiripo takatarisana nacho ndechekuti hazvisi kushanda. Yezvinezvi Chamisa akatandaniswa kubva kuMDC ikoko. We saw that zvichinzi haasi kuteedzera mutemo section 56 of 2020 of the constitution of Zimbabwe. Wakataura kuti he is not a legitimate president by the virtue of the MDC alliance not representing or not coming to what we call a jurisdictional persona. So they are regarded not as a political party under those conditions. But what is important is moving forward from here. The victimization of Chamisa is equal as the victimization of myself or anyone. So what matters is the moment. Tikusimudza mureza we DRP. The blood that flows in us at the moment is the blood that doesn't know anyone's ethnic extraction or anyone, you know where you come from or what political party you affiliate to. But what is very important, the flag of DRP, irikuti, let's all assemble and move towards the table of brotherhood so that we can actually make our politics work for us. And in closing, we need to be cognizant of the fact that the current political prevalence is a typical military establishment. And if there are people out there who think carrying of files and marching to the courts that are actually rigged by ZANU-PF, that are actually presided by ZANU-PF, people will make a change that is able to deliver us from this political holocaust, then they must change and think their position. Otherwise, we will continue to have the degenerating of the social fabrics until donkey years. So we are in a very serious predicament which needs action now. And the DRP, people are precious. There are other ways that we need to implore and other ways that we need to start to act on to deliver people from Egypt to Canaan. Thanks, Honorable.
Right, Mr. Lakson Kanyeta, last word. How can people contact the organization? Are you guys now available to take members quickly in 1 minute?
Yes, Mr. Gambakwe, I would like to encourage, especially the young people like myself, those that are 30 years and under. Not to try to say those that are above that are not equally important, but I would like to encourage them to be angry as I am. Come and join us. We are on all social media platforms. The numbers will be provided. We are equally ready for multitudes to come and join us, because ours is a movement more than a political party. So we are saying that the move right now is an individual one, where each and everyone has the responsibility to play, has a role to play towards that democracy which we seek. In your personal capacity, you have the power and you have the means to make a statement. Never mind this thing of congregating behind a popular leader. It won't get us anywhere. Mr. Changirai was equally popular, but he passed away with anger and Nechip Moyo, because his victory was refused. And now we have Mr. Chamisa. He will equally die if we do not also step up and become leaders ourselves. So I want to say, come and join us in the DRP. It's a movement towards getting the democracy that we want. And yes, these protests that are happening right now, I as a young person, I'm equally in support of them. And I wouldn't say that I'm actually doing them, but I'm encouraging you to also join me towards the democracy that we want. Thank you, Mr. Gambakwe.
Right, Mr. Mubvumbi, one last
Yes.
word.
Yes.
Do you encourage these protests? What is your word to people in Harare now regarding the protests that happened yesterday? Should they spread around Harare or across Harare?
What we have in Zimbabwe is no longer a question of whether we approve or we disapprove the congregation of people to air their views or the eruption of, you know, as a result of the misgovernment of the country. What we have in Zimbabwe is a quest for freedom. We have rolled back to the years of Mbuya Nehanda, where people were actually starved literally by the system which was there. I will put it across to you, Honorable Gambakwe, that after the lockdown, you will see people coming out of their houses with ribs coming out of their bellies because of malnutrition. And that has to be stopped. What Mnangagwa and his government are doing right now is a typical Holocaust. It's no different from what Adolf Hitler did in Germany, concentrating Jews and other nationals and conquering every fabric of human beings. That's exactly what we have in Zimbabwe. So because of the fear of what will come when the people protest, people can even be gunned down. I'll put it across to you. There is only one person who actually passed away. He passed on to be with the ages in America by the name of George Floyd. But the whole nation has come together to condemn that. But in Zimbabwe, the aftermath of our 2018 election was marked by the gunning down of 17 Zimbabweans. What do? You see, this is a wake-up call to say, together we can make it. It's high time we unite. So that's the way that it is coming from us. It's no longer an issue of us, but it's a quest for freedom. And so, in short, you know, revolution is imminent. Thanks, Your Honor.
Right, Mr. Lakson Kanyeta, Mr. Brian Mubvumbi, thank you very much for joining me today. Let's talk again over the weekend. The message is very clear. People are ready to go on the street and people should unite. Thank you very much, gents.
Thank you, Mr.
Thanks,
Gambakwe.
Honorable
Thank you,
Gambakwe.
viewers.
Thanks to your viewers.